Hi, my name is Juusela, and today my guest is Marc Cox from London. How are you, Marc?
Yeah, I'm very good. That always makes me think of the Eurovision Song Contest.
Okay. Nice one.
London calling.
Yeah, London calling. How's the weather there?
It's a bit. Well, it's not too bad. I mean, we can't complain. We've had a fantastic summer.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and it's been good fun. But
Yeah.
it's obviously a little bit autumn now. And the schools go back. Most of the schools go back this week, so change of the seasons.
Yeah. Now the fall is coming. Could you tell us a bit who you are and what you do?
Yeah. My name is Marc Cox, as you've said, and I'm founder of a company called the Company Spirit. And the philosophy and approach about that is quite simple. I get hired by largely CEOs and leadership teams to kick off behavioural change, and my focus is culture, the company culture, and I have a simple belief, which is that if you want a great experience on the outside to your customers, you need to start with a memorable experience on the inside with your employees. And for me, there's an absolute connection between the employee experience, the customer experience, and long-term sustainable business.
Yeah.
So I help my clients really help them create an authentic culture that leads to those type of experiences.
Yeah, really nice, interesting. And I met you at London on this love tasting event, and it was really interesting. You introduced us the love grit that you are having, and I think it had really nice and good components that they are something that all the retailers should think about. So could you tell us a bit about this one?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, companies are run by people.
Yeah.
And whether the result is, the result might be the design of a product, or how it's merchandised, or how a store feels, but they're ultimately led and run by people, and therefore for me, what the Love Grid seeks to do is explain the link between the internal company behaviour, i.e. largely the behaviour of the bosses, and the resultant customer experience and customer relationship, and the choices people have. What I went through in London was really, for me, there are normally three types of behaviour that exist within the company. And they each have their consequences. I mean, each can work, but they normally have a consequence. And what you see, and unfortunately, you see a lot of this in retail, is that the behaviour of the company is really what I call dealer-led, which it just focuses on product and price, and it becomes, or the leadership team and the everything that the business think about tends to focus around those two simple points, which is fine as long as you've got a real advantage in either product or price. But what tends to happen is, if you've got that internal behaviour going on, it leads to a customer experience which is no more than okay. And a relationship which is transactional. I go, I buy, I leave. I've got no relationship with the business, whatsoever, because I'm basing my decision on, low cost.
Yeah.
And of course, the problem with that is you've got no, as a customer, you've got no equity, you've got no relationship with that company. You're just going in for the deal. And therefore, for me, it's very rarely a long-term solution to operate in that way. But lots of businesses find it easy to do that because it's quite tangible. All we worry about is product and price, and that's a very sort of process and operationally driven way of thinking. I think so that's one part of the love grid. The moving slightly further up in terms of behaviour is what I call retailer behaviour. And actually, interestingly, it's not just about shops or shopping. But this type of behaviour, which sits in the middle of the love grid, it tends to be people, the leadership team, or the CEO of the team. They understand that they need to think a little bit more than just product and price. So they do have some sort of service culture, but it tends to be very head-led. It tends to be very sort of management consultancy-led. Not from the heart, not from the emotion, sort of what we need to do rather than this is what we believe in. Perhaps interestingly, a lot of airlines sit in this category, in my opinion. You get on board flight and there is some attempt at service, and there is some sort of and so therefore the relationship you have with the experience is maybe a little bit warmer, moving on from okay to perhaps enjoyable, and you might even respect the company for what it is, but you don't really love it, and that to me is the behaviour of the companies that sit at the top of the love grid. Is that the culture and the organisation is led in a way where the boss and the bosses, they really believe in the fact that if they create an internal culture based around a clear sense of values, clear sense of beliefs, and probably more than anything else, a clear sense of purpose. What do we stand for? And then they combine that with the head bit, the product, price and service, because obviously every business needs a good product, it needs to be fairly priced, and it needs a service ethos.
Yeah.
But it's the way you go about it that is, for me, that is the difference. And these companies, they just go a different way. Their absolute philosophy starts from a different perspective. And if they get it right, then what tends to happen is the first emotional reaction is with the employees, and if they feel that they're involved and they're involved with a company that has got a set of ethics and beliefs and sense of purpose, then they can love the company they work for, and they feel emotionally engaged and they believe in it, and if they believe in it, then what tends to happen is that feeling translates out to the customer, and the customer, starts to feel that actually, this is a place which can be full of memorable experiences, big and small. Memorable experience doesn't have to be huge; it can be just the way you're treated, or the way you're listened to, or the way the person who is selling to you or talking to you has got product knowledge and confidence. So it can be small things, normal things. But if you get that right, then often that sort of deep emotional engagement that happens within the company translates into love for the customer. And if you get that right, like love in a marriage, you've got something really strong. And you've got something that actually you can then translate into a way of thinking and believing, which allows you, interestingly, to sometimes make mistakes and get forgiven. Because just like marriage, if you've got strong love, life's not perfect, business isn't perfect, and companies make mistakes. But if you've got a strong equity within the relationship between you and the customer, then the customer quite often says, "Oh, fine, things happen." Whereas down at the bottom, if you're just a dealer, then actually, if you make a mistake, then what tends to happen is, "That's it, fine, I'm off."
Yeah. So
and
it's
obviously.
Yeah, so it's basically like this. If you're just like the faceless corporation, then it's like you don't have the relationship. But when you are doing business human to human, kind of like you are not going behind the corporate. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
And I think that's, and interestingly, in quite, challenging times in business, to me that's even more important.
Yeah.
And the businesses that are doing well, the winning companies, whether they're the small independent store. I when you were in London, I sent you off to Covent Garden and you went to some places, and London is, despite all the kind of Brexit woes that seem to be going on, is thriving. It's full of energy. It's full of creativity, and there are independent stores or small chains of stores which absolutely get what I'm talking about, because their founders normally have this philosophy which is much more of a, a way of sort of, it's I wouldn't say, I was going to use the word modern day, but in many ways it's not modern day, because it's almost going back to the olden days where there was more of a sense of a community within a business.
And I agree with you, because somehow I can kind of sense or feel the way that the younger generation is going to go to those small shops that you can't, looking for the items that you can't shop from online, or something like the underground scene. I'm kind of like quite certain that will come back in one way or another, in probably with some contemporary twist or something, but definitely there is a place for the small shops that have their unique experience with the people who are working in there.
Well, I agree, and I think there's I think people get very confused about online and shops, and the companies that do it well is they just understand we are the same company, we just have different channels. It's not either or. It needs to support and understand obviously the changing needs or the changing opportunities that technology brings, but online doesn't need to be a cold experience or a transactional experience, just in the same way as the stores shouldn't be. But to your main point, I think there is I'm glad to say, I think one of the good things of the last few years is that if I start from the employee perspective and then go on to the customer perspective, I'm lucky enough to have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees, or young and old, in different companies in different countries, different parts of the world, and most employees actually want their company to believe in something. They particularly the younger ones.
The value.
And they look at a generation where there isn't been particularly good behaviour or trust within our governments, our politicians, our institutions, and they actually want to believe in it. They want to believe in the company. They want to be proud of it. And if they don't, and again, this is a reflection on changes to working practice, they'll go, or they'll do something else. And I think a lot of bosses struggle with that.
Yeah.
Because because they've been brought up in an age where, people used to go to work, and quite often they'd work in the same place for 10, 15, 20 years, and they were used to a sort of command and control way of working, and people reject that now. And interestingly, they want clarity. Employees want clarity. They don't want to be, they want to know what's going on, and they're very clear about, tell us the numbers, tell us what the targets are, but we want to feel involved and engaged and feel that we're collaborating in the future, not just told what to do. Here's the strategy, go and do it. It's much more about here's this is where we're going, this is what we're trying to do, what do you think, and how are you going to bring that to life? And that's the same thing that's going on with customers is that, you know, we have choices. And obviously it doesn't mean to say everybody and every decision you make is going to be based on love, you know, and if it's, you need something quick and easy and you know, you just want to pop in and buy something, then that's what you do. But where we tend to spend our money, or more importantly, where we tend to spend our money and repeat spending our money, when we go back, tends to be with a company where we have a belief in. Because why would you spend money on a regular basis with a company you don't?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Do you have any good tips for the retailers at the end here?
Well, my biggest tip is look inwards and look at yourself, and you know, and really focus on three things. You know, first and foremost, you have to make a decision, and I'm talking and these are tips for the bosses. You have to decide what type of company you want to be, and my argument is, or my belief is, if you want long-term sustainable success, then you have to do three things. First of all, you have to focus on your people. You have to get your employees to feel that they are involved and engaged and clear about what the company stands for. Secondly, you have to be really, really confident about what makes you different. And you know, it's interesting how so many businesses they end up frightened and end up trying to be in the middle or vanilla. You know, we better not be. You know, let's not be too brave because, you know, we're not sure that it will work. And I don't agree with that, because if you're not different, then what are you? And I used to use a phrase many years ago, which is relevant for now, which is actually, if you're not different, you tend to be discount.
Yeah,
you know, because you end up just trading on price.
Yeah.
So, you know, tip number 2 is get really clear about what makes you different. And then the last tip is really, really focus on creating memorable customer experiences. And that again is a mindset. You know, it's about behavior. It's not particularly expensive. It's not about needing to spend a lot of money. It's just actually looking at the experience from the customer's perspective and working backwards to the product. And saying, how are we going to translate that into an experience that people will love? And, you know, I know it's a big example, but it's the first $1 trillion company. So this is the Apple way. And, you know, we all get used to Apple being used as an example, but it's the biggest and most global example of a company that follows all those 3 tips. So, you know, it can't be bad if actually that translates into the first $1 trillion company.
Yeah, really good ones. I really like that idea, because it's all about how you make people feel. They don't remember what you said or what are the nice writings on the website or whatever. It's how you make them feel. And for me, the customer experience starts from the serving. How well are you serving the customer? So great, you have really nice videos on your YouTube, so I will provide the link for there, and for your LinkedIn profile, perhaps, so people can find out more about you and Love Great. And you are having these nice workshops you have been thinking about arranging, and so people can check out those too.
Yes, and actually, what's changed since that. One of the things I'm doing, which I hope to do, and I've got a proposal in, is writing a book.
Oh, nice! Sounds really good. Interesting.
Which will basically expand on the philosophy of what we've been talking about, and the working title. So it's working title rather than actual title is Who Kills the Company Spirit?
Oh, nice.
and then the answer, the knight in shining armor that comes to rescue, is the business case for love.
Nice. Nice.
But it's the role is to really highlight what's going wrong in business from my perspective, and therefore obviously what is the alternative? What is the center? What needs to be at the center of the way a company behaves and lives, and thank you about the videos, because that's been quite fun putting those together, and in essence the theme is about putting the love back into business.
That's a good mission. Nice one.
It is, but I think one that isn't airy fairy.
Yeah.
And that's perhaps the challenge for a lot of bosses who, and this is the phrase I know you love, who tend to be men of a certain age. And they struggle with the empathetic side of business and the emotional side of business. They might be good at figures, they might be good at process and operations, but that's not enough nowadays.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's enough nowadays. And they struggle with the fact that actually it is about feelings. It is about, do you feel good about what you've bought? Do you feel good about the experience you've had? And of course, in our wonderful social media world, the moment you feel something good or bad, you tell people about it. And there is just no hiding place today from that. And again, I think that's something that businesses struggle with. They too often do one thing and do another. My famous, image and experience needs to match, but so often it doesn't match. Companies say one thing and do something completely different.
Yeah, that's
true. That's a whole new interview.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the talk and nice tips, and I'll provide those links so people can find out more about Love Grit and about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anna, good luck. Lovely to talk to you again.
Yeah.
And good luck with everything. And let's, as normal, just chat away, because it's great talking to you.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. So, see you again.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah,
Bye.
take care. Bye.